Hello everybody, in this session I am going to be talking to you about a small point relating to section 115 BAC. It is relevant if you are writing Jan 2025 exams, also relevant for May 2025 exams. Listen to me, small simple point only. Let's say my assessee has filed ITR on time. If my assessee is filing ITR within section 139 subsection 1 due date, then assessee has an option. By default, assessee is going to be following 115 BAC. But if assessee wants, assessee can opt out of 115 BAC and assessee can follow the normal regime also. But however, if the assessee files ITR late, then assessee does not have the option of opting out, which means assessee has to compute his total income only as per 115 BAC. You don't even have the option of opting out to the normal regime. So this is an important point, guys, that if you want to opt out, you have to file your ITR on time. If you file your ITR late, you do not have the option of coming out of 115 BAC, which means if you file your ITR late, you have to stay under 115 BAC only. Okay, now this is one point. Okay, now I'm going to combine two concepts for you. In the last video which I uploaded, I spoke to you about loss from house property plus 115 BAC, that ICI corrigendum I spoke to you about. And here I am talking to you about what if assessee files ITR late. So these two concepts I am going to combine for you and I am going to try to create a situation for you. Listen to me carefully. The situation is something like this. My assessee is following 115 BAC. Okay. My current year is 23-24 in this example, and current year my assessee is having loss from house property. And my assessee is not having income from any other house property. Assessee is having only one house, and from that one house it is a loss. Of course, this is not a self-occupied property. We know very well. In the last video only I've told you in 115 BAC, if you're having loss from house property, it has to be from let out property only, because self-occupied property will always be zero under 115 BAC, because under self-occupied property, interest is not allowed as a deduction under 115 BAC. So loss from house property, if you're having under 115 BAC, definitely it is let out property loss only. Okay, so assessee is following 115 BAC, assessee is having loss from house property, assessee is not having income from any other property. Okay, now what will you do? And one more thing, let me say, one more information let me add. Let me say assessee has filed ITR late. Okay, this is the situation. So assessee is having loss from house property. Can you do intra-head adjustment? Yes, you can do intra-head adjustment, but however, I am telling you assessee is not having any other income from house property. So actually intra-head is possible, but over here, because my assessee is not having any other income from house property, I cannot do intra-head adjustment also, because no other income is there. So what to do with this loss from house property then? Can you do inter-head adjustment? Is inter-head adjustment allowed? Inter-head adjustment is not allowed because assessee is following 115 BAC. Can my assessee carry forward the loss to the next year? Even this you will not allow. Why? Because you know that in 115 BAC, you can only do intra-head adjustment of current year loss from house property. You cannot carry forward to the next year. You cannot do inter-head adjustment. So what will happen to this loss, guys? Nothing. In this example, this loss will simply lapse. Okay. Now listen. We also learn in our set off and carry forward chapter that if assessee files ITR late, then you cannot carry forward current year losses. Right, guys? But you can carry forward loss from house property and unabsorbed depreciation and all. Loss from house property, even if you file ITR late, you can still carry it forward. That is what we learn under a set off and carry forward chapter, that even if assessee files ITR late, you can still carry forward loss from house property. But here what am I saying? I just now taught you over here that if assessee files ITR late, then assessee has to follow 115 BAC only. Normal regime is not possible. Under 115 BAC, carry forward of losses is not possible. So are you understanding that there is we're getting stuck over here? Yes, see, I'll try to, in case this doubt did not come to you, let me create the doubt for you once again. Listen to me. Let us say I'm having loss from house property in the current year. Okay. And I'm trying to do intra-head adjustment. Intra-head is not possible for me because I don't have any income from house property. And current year my assessee is filing ITR late. Because my assessee is filing ITR late, can my assessee follow normal provisions? Impossible, guys. If you file ITR late, you have to stay within 115 BAC only. So under 115 BAC, intra-head is possible, but you can do intra-head only if you have some other income from house property. No, I am not having any other income from house property, so that is why intra-head I am not able to do. Inter-head is anyways not allowed, guys, under 115 BAC. Under 115 BAC, carry forward of losses is also not allowed. So only intra-head is possible, but even intra-head I am not able to do. I am not having any other income from house property. So, but then here we learned, assessee, even if you file ITR late, you can still carry forward loss from house property. But here I am saying, assessee, you filed ITR late, you can't carry forward loss from house property. So there is a mismatch in provision over here. So how do you read this? How do you interpret this? How do you solve this? One side we are saying if you file ITR late, you can still carry forward loss from house property. Another side we are saying if you file ITR late, you will fall under 115 BAC only, and under 115 BAC you can't carry forward losses. So how do I read this together? Now this is where I will apply the rule of harmonious construction, which you learn in interpretation of statutes. Applying that rule of interpretation, my interpretation will be something like this. Tell me, is 115 BAC applicable for all assessees? No, 115 BAC is applicable only for individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP. 115 BAC is applicable only and only for these assessees. So for these assessees, if you file ITR late, okay, then you don't have a choice. You have to follow under 115 BAC only. And if you fall under 115 BAC, see, loss from house property you can only do intra-head adjustment. You can't do inter-head, you can't carry forward to the next year. So if you file ITR late, conclusion is you can't carry forward loss from house property then if assessee is individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP. But is 115 BAC applicable to all assessees? What about partnership firms? What about LLPs? For them 115 BAC is not applicable. So if my assessee, for example, if my assessee is a partnership firm and if my assessee files ITR late, okay, then my assessee will still fall under the normal provisions only, because 115 BAC is anyways not applicable to partnership firm. So if assessee is a partnership firm and if assessee files ITR late, you will still be under normal provisions only. Here if you have any loss from house property, what can you do? If you have loss from house property, you can do intra-head adjustment. You can do inter-head adjustment also, but maximum how much? Maximum only 2 lakhs you can do, and you can carry forward to the next year also. Even though you have filed your ITR late, you can still carry forward loss from house property. Understood? So if assessee is an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP, 115 BAC will apply for the assessee. So if you file ITR late, you have to follow 115 BAC. Under 115 BAC, carry forward of loss from house property is not allowed. So you cannot carry forward. But if assessee is not individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP, if assessee is any other assessee, then 115 BAC is anyways not applicable. So even if you file ITR late, like if you are a partnership firm, even if you file ITR late, you are still going to come under normal regime only. Under normal regime, if you have any loss from house property, then intra-head adjustment, inter-head adjustment, carry forward, all the three you can do. Understanding. See, I'm not talking about companies over here, because for companies we have two other sections, 115 BAA, 115 BAB, which you will be learning in CA final. There the implication is slightly different. But however, for individual HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP, this part you must be pretty clear with this discussion by now. Alright, so with this I'll close over here. I'm hoping the confusion is put to rest. Thank you. Bye-bye.